In a forgotten village far from the hustle and bustle of the city, there is an old house that has long been abandoned. The house used to belong to the Hendra family, a respected family but famous for their mysterious stories. Several years ago, the family suddenly disappeared without a trace, leaving their neglected house and becoming the talk of the village. Stories about the old house spread widely, especially stories about strange events that happened inside before the Hendra family disappeared. It is said that the house is haunted by the spirits of the family, who are said to have died tragically in an accident that was never clearly revealed. Several villagers have claimed to hear laughter or screams at night, but no one dared to approach to prove it. One night, a young man named Dika, who had just moved to the village, felt curious. He had heard many scary stories about the house, but he did not believe them. Dika decided to explore the house and find out the truth. He invited his two friends, Ferry and Lila, to accompany him. That night, the three of them walked through the dark path towards the old house. The night wind blew hard, and the atmosphere felt tense. When they arrived in front of the house, Dika felt a cold air envelop his body. The house stood tall with broken windows and doors that were almost off their hinges. It seemed that no one had taken care of it for a long time. Cautiously, they entered the house through the slightly open main door. As soon as they stepped inside, they were greeted by a musty smell and dust that covered every corner. Inside, the house was quiet, deserted, and filled with a strange silence. Lila shivered, but Dika tried to stay calm. They walked through the spacious living room, observing every object left behind, such as dusty chairs and tables. The atmosphere became even more tense when they arrived at a long hallway leading to the back of the house. The sound of their footsteps echoed off the empty walls, making the atmosphere even more uncomfortable. Suddenly, the house shook violently, and screams could be heard from all corners of the room. The doors and windows rattled loudly, and the air around them became very cold. Lila screamed, but their voices seemed to be swallowed by the tense silence. Behind the door, there was a smaller room with an old cupboard in the corner. However, what caught their attention was a large painting on the wall. The painting depicted Hendra's family, but there was something strange about it. Their faces looked blurry, as if the painting had been painted quickly and in a hurry. But the scariest thing was the figure behind the family, a dark shadow with an unclear shape. Lila felt scared and wanted to leave immediately, but Dika forced them to stay in the room. Suddenly, the sound of the door creaking was heard again, this time from above. They heard heavy footsteps upstairs, as if someone was walking towards them. With their hearts pounding, they went upstairs. When they arrived upstairs, the atmosphere became even more tense. All the rooms looked empty and unkempt. They then headed to the main room, where Hendra's family used to live. The door to the room was slightly open, and inside there was a large bed that looked very shabby. However, there was something that shocked them. On the bed, there was a body lying. Dika stepped closer, but when he saw the person's face, he was shocked. The faces were those of Hendra's family, but with very different expressions, like they were full of suffering. Their eyes were blank, and their mouths were tightly shut, as if they couldn't speak or cry. Dika stepped back in panic, but the body slowly rose and stared at them with a terrifying gaze. Suddenly, the house shook violently, and screams could be heard from all corners of the room. The doors and windows rattled loudly, and the air around them became very cold. Lila screamed, but their voices seemed to be swallowed by the tense silence. Dika, Ferry, and Lila ran out of the room, trying to find a way out. However, the hallway they passed seemed endless. Every time they turned, they returned to the same place. They were trapped in a house that they couldn't get out of. When they started to feel desperate, Dika saw something in the corner of the dark hallway, a small door that was tightly closed. Without thinking, they tried to open the door and finally found a staircase that went down to the basement. They went down in a hurry, hoping to get out of the house. Below, they found a room filled with dirt and rubble. In the middle of the room, there was a...
Support this channel by liking and subscribing, and keep following the latest horror stories.